the full story of Tommy Docherty is finally revealed. He was a man who led Manchester United to a glorious FA Cup victory, beating their rivals Liverpool and denying them a historic treble. Yet, just 44 days after this triumph, he was sacked. The reason given dominated Britain's news. He was 49 and having an affair with Laurie Brown, the wife of the team's physiotherapist, Laurie Brown. Docherty himself created the narrative he would stick to for life. I am the only man to get sacked for falling in love. But was it that simple? The board called it a severe breach of professional ethics that brought the club into disrepute. This one event defined his career, but it was just one part of a life filled with controversy, bitter feuds, and legal battles. However, to understand the man who fell so far, you have to understand the brilliant innovator he was first. He was a manager of substantial talent and vision, and his methods, while ruthless, built some of the most exciting teams in football history. This story is incredibly complex. Do you believe the board was right to sack him, or should a manager's private life remain private? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dives into football's most dramatic stories, make sure to subscribe. To see his genius, we go back to Chelsea in the 1960s. He was appointed at just 33. He didn't just manage, he designed the blueprint for the modern manager. He shipped out the old guard and promoted a core of brilliant young academy players. This team included legends like Peter Bonetti, Ron Harris, and a young captain named Terry Venables. They were called Docherty's Diamonds. They played a stylish, attractive style of football and won the League Cup in 1965. The approach Docherty brought to Chelsea was revolutionary for its time. Young managers were rare in the early 1960s, and even rarer were those willing to trust youth over experience. But Docherty saw something in his academy graduates that others had missed. He recognised raw talent and understood that enthusiasm and pace could overcome the tactical wisdom of older players. His team became known not just for winning, but for how they won. They attacked with speed and creativity. They took risks that more conservative managers would never allow. This style made Chelsea one of the most watched teams in England. Fans packed the stands, not just to see results, but to witness football played with joy and freedom. The players responded to Docherty's faith in them with loyalty and effort. They ran harder, played smarter, and believed they could beat anyone. This belief was the foundation of everything Docherty built at Chelsea, but this brilliance came with volatility. In April 1965, with Chelsea chasing the title, 8 key players, including Venables, broke a curfew. Docherty's reaction was swift and absolute. He suspended all 8 players. This single act cost Chelsea a shot at the First Division title. Venables called the decision crass, stupid, and self-defeating. The Blackpool incident revealed a fundamental truth about Docherty's management philosophy. He demanded total control. Discipline was not negotiable. When his players challenged his authority, even inadvertently, his response was immediate and severe. Some saw this as strong leadership. Others viewed it as ego-driven self-sabotage. The truth likely lay somewhere in between. Docherty believed that without discipline, talent meant nothing. He had given these young players their opportunity, and, in his mind, they had betrayed his trust. The suspension sent shockwaves through English football. Commentators debated whether any manager should sacrifice his team's success to make a point about discipline. Critics argued that a good manager would have found a way to punish the players without destroying the season. Supporters countered that compromise would have undermined his authority permanently. The debate raged. But Docherty never wavered. He stood by his decision, even as Chelsea's title hopes evaporated. This was more than discipline. It was a power struggle. Venables was a cerebral player who believed Docherty to be tactically limited. One report claims Venables even reorganised the side's entire game plan behind the manager's back for a European tie. Chelsea won comfortably. The relationship between Docherty and Venables became the defining dynamic of this Chelsea era. Venables was not just talented, he was intelligent and confident in his understanding of the game. He saw tactics differently than his manager and was not afraid to voice his opinions. In team meetings, Venables would question decisions and suggest alternatives. At first, Docherty tolerated this, but as Venables' influence in the dressing room grew, The manager began to see him as a threat. The story of Venables reorganising the team's tactics without permission is extraordinary. It suggests a captain who believed he knew better than his manager and was willing to act on that belief. When Chelsea won the match, it validated Venables' approach but humiliated Docherty. How could a manager maintain authority when his captain could deliver better results by ignoring him? This incident made their relationship impossible to repair. Docherty couldn't accept this challenge. His relationship with his captain deteriorated beyond repair, and he quickly offloaded Venables to Tottenham. This showed a ruthlessness he would carry throughout his career. The sale of Venables was controversial. Many Chelsea fans were furious. They had watched their captain lead the team with skill and intelligence. Losing him felt like losing the heart of the side. But Docherty had made his calculation. He would rather rebuild without Venables than manage a team where his authority was constantly questioned. This decision defined his approach to management. Talent alone was never enough. Players had to accept his leadership completely, or they had no place in his team. Years later, when asked about the Venables situation, Docherty would downplay the entire affair. He would joke about their disagreements and claim they got along fine, but those who witnessed their battles knew the truth. The conflict between these two strong personalities had been real, intense, and ultimately destructive to Chelsea's ambitions. This ruthlessness was exactly why Manchester United hired him in 1972. He had to navigate the traumatic post-Matt Busby years and was given the tricky task of dismantling a team full of true football legends. Star winger Willie Morgan described Docherty as Machiavellian and a straightforward liar. Morgan claimed Docherty intentionally created turmoil. Manchester United in 1972 was a club trapped by its own history. The ghost of Matt Busby haunted every decision. Players who had won the European Cup just 4 years earlier were now aging and struggling. But they remained heroes to the fans, and removing them required a manager with no sentimentality. Docherty was that manager. He understood that nostalgia could destroy a football club. Success required looking forward, not backward. The atmosphere at Old Trafford when Docherty arrived was toxic. The team was underperforming. Morale was low. The players knew changes were coming, but didn't know who would survive. This uncertainty created tension that Docherty seemed to encourage rather than diffuse. He kept players guessing about their futures. He made decisions that seemed designed to create conflict. Willie Morgan watched all of this and concluded that Docherty was deliberately manufacturing chaos. He allegedly manufactured a conflict over the captaincy between Morgan and George Graham. He deceived club legend Denis Law, who found out he was on the transfer list by watching the news on TV. He publicly humiliated assistant manager and Busby-era hero Paddy Crerand. The captaincy incident showed Docherty's manipulative side. By telling two players different stories, he created suspicion and resentment between them. When the truth emerged, both players felt betrayed. But the damage to their relationship had been done. Whether this was intentional or simply careless management remains debated. Morgan believed it was calculated. He saw Docherty as someone who used division to maintain control. The Denis Law situation was even more damaging to Docherty's reputation. Law was not just any player. He was a Manchester United legend, beloved by fans and respected throughout football. To learn about his transfer status from a television broadcast, rather than from his manager directly, was humiliating. It showed a shocking lack of respect. When news of this treatment became public, it damaged Docherty's standing with supporters who revered Law. The treatment of Paddy Crerand revealed another aspect of Docherty's ruthlessness. Crerand was a Busby-era hero who had become assistant manager. He represented the old regime that Docherty was determined to dismantle. By humiliating Crerand publicly, Docherty sent a message to everyone at the club. The past no longer mattered. Only his vision for the future counted. This approach created enemies, but it also established his authority. These actions seem cruel, but this turmoil was the messy, intentional byproduct of Docherty's hatchet man role. He had to break the cultural hold of the Busby era to move forward. While he treated the old guard abominably, he treated his new players like Gordon Hill and Lou Macari with generosity. He built Doc's Red Army in a glorious attacking 4-2-4 system that played breathtaking football. Understanding Docherty requires recognising this duality. He was capable of great cruelty towards some and genuine kindness toward others. The distinction was simple. If you were part of his vision, he would support you completely. If you represented the past or challenged his authority, he would remove you without hesitation. This created a divided club, but it also created loyalty among his chosen players. Gordon Hill's experience of signing for Manchester United illustrates the positive side of Docherty's personality. Hill remembered a manager who was warm, encouraging, and generous. Docherty promised to take care of him, and he kept that promise. Hill thrived under Docherty's management, playing with freedom and confidence. For players like Hill, Docherty was not a tyrant, but a mentor who believed in them. Lou Macari had a similar experience. He found Docherty to be supportive and trustworthy. The manager gave him responsibility and backed him when things went wrong. This loyalty created a bond between Docherty and his new generation of players. They would run through walls for him because they believed he would do the same for them. This strategy led to relegation, but they returned as champions and culminated in that 1977 FA Cup win. His ruthless plan had worked. The relegation year tested Docherty's resolve. Many managers would have been sacked after taking Manchester United down to the second division, but the board recognised that Docherty was implementing a long-term plan. The relegation was painful, but it also completed the clear-out of the old guard. When United returned to the first division as champions, they did so with a team that was entirely Docherty's creation. The FA Cup victory in 1977 was the culmination of 5 years of rebuilding. United's attacking football had won over fans who had initially been sceptical of Docherty. The team played with pace, creativity, and courage. They took risks and entertained crowds. When they beat Liverpool in the final, denying them a historic treble, it felt like vindication for Docherty's entire approach. His ruthless methods had been justified by success. After his sacking, the drama continued. Willie Morgan went on TV and called Docherty the worst manager there had ever been. Docherty sued him for libel. The case went to the Old Bailey. The decision to sue Morgan was characteristic of Docherty's combative nature. He could have ignored the comments. Many managers would have. But Docherty wanted to fight. He wanted to prove Morgan wrong publicly. He wanted vindication through the legal system. This decision would prove to be one of the worst of his life. The trial was a disaster for Docherty. He treated it like a performance, laughing, cracking gags. Morgan's lawyer cornered him on his contradictory account of Denis Law's transfer. The lawyer asked him directly, "You told a pack of lies to the jury about this, didn't you?" Docherty's stunning reply under oath. "Yes, it turned out this way, yes." This admission destroyed Docherty's case and his reputation. To admit to lying under oath was devastating. It confirmed everything his critics had said about him. Willie Morgan had called him a liar, and Docherty had proven Morgan correct in the most public way possible. The courtroom fell silent when he made this admission. His legal team knew immediately that the case was lost. His legal team immediately dropped the case. It was a public humiliation that proved Morgan's claim that he was a liar. He was later charged with the criminal offence of perjury, but was ultimately acquitted. The acquittal on perjury charges provided little comfort. The damage was done. Everyone remembered his admission of lying. Few remembered or cared about the acquittal. In the court of public opinion, Docherty had been convicted. His credibility was destroyed. His reputation would never fully recover. But what about the other dark rumour? The one that he promised the 1977 FA Cup team a cash sum, which was then given to him for safekeeping and was never seen again. We conducted an exhaustive review of all the research, including autobiographies from his biggest critics. The finding is clear. None of the sources mention this claim. The allegation is entirely unsubstantiated. It appears to be phantom folklore, a rumour that stuck simply because his other controversies made it seem plausible. We return to the event that defined him, the sacking. The board's position was clear. He had an affair with a subordinate's wife, a serious ethical breach. But what about Docherty's claim? Was he really sacked for falling in love? The affair ended his 28-year marriage to his first wife, Agnes. But he and Laurie Brown married in 1988. They remained together until his death in 2020. It was an enduring 32-year marriage. In the end, his romantic, tragic line was validated. He truly did sacrifice his career for the woman he would spend the rest of his life with. Docherty's legacy is a paradox. He was a manager of substantial talent and vision who built vibrant attacking teams that played breathtaking football. But this brilliance was perpetually overshadowed by his volatile nature. He was arrogant and unpredictable, ruthless, and frequently rash. His career was defined by the feud with Venables, his Machiavellian tactics, his admission of lying in court, and the tabloid gold scandal that cost him his dream job. He was a man who won far more fans than trophies, but whose colourful life ensured he'd be remembered more for the drama than his genius. Tommy Docherty's story is one of the most complex in sports history, but how should he be remembered? As the brilliant innovator or the volatile maverick? Let us know your final thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.